The black mechanic was kicked out of the tech conference. No one knew he founded it. "You can't just walk in here like you belong," the security guard said, and already reaching for his radio. Jamal Carter didn't get a chance to reply before two more guards flanked him, eyes cold, movements rehearsed. He'd been standing in line like everyone else. Badge around his neck, QR code printed clearly. His name, in bold, Jamal Carter, founder Carter Technologies. Nobody read it. They only saw a black man in scuffed boots and a grease-stained jacket at the entrance of the most prestigious engineering conference on the West Coast. The woman behind him, blonde and tight-lipped, clutched her tote bag like he might snatch it. "I'm sure he's lost," she muttered. "Maybe here to fix the plumbing or something." He'd heard it before, 1,000 times. The assumption, the undertone, that he didn't belong. But today hurt worse. Because this wasn't just any tech summit, it was his brainchild, his dream. 12 years ago, in a cramped garage in South Dallas, Jamal had started Carter Technologies with 2 salvaged CPUs, 3 whiteboards, and one hell of a vision: to give underrepresented engineers, especially black ones, a platform to shine. He'd named the summit Next Drive. And now, at the gleaming convention center in San Jose, Next Drive 2025 was in full swing. Flashing drones, keynote stages, custom apps, and banners plastered with words like innovation, inclusion, future. What a joke. Inclusion, he thought bitterly, as the guards asked him to step aside. "I'm on the schedule," Jamal said quietly. "Check the app. Noon. Founder's Vision Panel." The first guard chuckled. "Sure you are, boss. Let's go." They didn't rough him up. They didn't need to. The humiliation was enough. Jamal's face burned as curious eyes followed him out of the line. He noticed a young black engineer he'd once mentored, Deshaun, watching the scene unfold. Their eyes met, but Deshaun looked away. Maybe he was scared. Or ashamed. Jamal didn't blame him. The guards didn't bother checking credentials until they'd walked him past the entrance scanners. At that point, they realized their mistake. But instead of apologizing, one muttered, "Our bad." And the other added, "Just looked out of place, man. You understand." Jamal didn't answer. He didn't scream. He didn't demand a scene. He just turned around and left. Outside, the air was thick with the hum of electric shuttles and conversation. Banners fluttered. People streamed past him, phones out, live-streaming booths, and posting selfies with new prototypes. He sat on a bench near the street. Opened the app. There it was, noon, the vision behind Next Drive with Jamal Carter. He was still listed, still expected, but no one was looking for him. Back home in Texas, his mama would have said, "Sometimes God lets you be invisible to show the world how blind it really is." He wiped his hands on his jeans, leaving darker streaks of oil. This morning, he'd changed the alternator on his neighbor's car before catching his flight. Couldn't afford to say no, conference or not. He remembered what he'd told himself on that first night of building Carter Tech. "If I ever make it, I won't become them. I won't forget what it feels like to be overlooked, unwanted, unseen." A group of students passed him, laughing. One of them had a Carter Technologies patch on their backpack. He almost smiled. Back inside, the panel room was filling up. The moderator, a smooth-talking exec from a major tech firm, glanced at his watch. "Looks like Mr. Carter's running late," he said with a grin. "Maybe our founder got caught up in traffic?" A few chuckles. Deshaun, now seated in the third row, shifted uncomfortably. He'd seen what happened. He'd hesitated earlier, but now. He stood up. "I saw Jamal Carter," he said loudly. Heads turned. He was outside. Security escorted him out. The moderator blinked. "Are you sure?" "Yeah," Deshaun said. "And I think you'll better go get him." For a moment, silence. Then a murmur. Then a ripple. One woman in the front row pulled up Jamal's LinkedIn profile. "It's him," she said, shocked. "Oh my God." Someone else opened their event app. "Why didn't anyone notice?" Another. "Why didn't anyone ask?" The moderator paled. "Well, we'll fix this." Outside, Jamal was still on the bench, watching an old man feed pigeons nearby. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Carter? This is Elise from the conference board. I'm so sorry, there's been a misunderstanding. We'd like to." "I know," Jamal said, standing slowly. "I'm not coming back in." She stammered. "Please, the panel's about to start. Everyone's waiting." Jamal looked at the glowing glass doors across the street, then at his calloused hands. "Let them wait." He hung up. But Deshaun came out anyway. Found him on the bench. Sat down beside him. I should have said something sooner, he said. I'm sorry. Jamal didn't reply for a while. Then he asked, you still coding that AI module we talked about last year? Deshaun blinked. Yeah. Got the prototype working last week. Good. Don't let them tell you where you belong, son. You already know. Back inside, the panel started late. They left his chair empty. The moderator fumbled. The crowd murmured. Twitter erupted. Hashtags trended. Let Jamal speak and next drive fail. But Jamal didn't check social media. He called his sister. Asked about her kids. Told her he might be home early. Then he walked to the bus stop. Didn't hail a ride. Didn't need flashing lights or dramatic exits. He just went home, where real work still waited, where nobody ever questioned if he belonged. The sun baked the pavement as Jamal waited for the next bus heading out of the city. His badge still hung from his neck, swaying gently in the warm breeze like some cruel joke. Founder. The word looked ridiculous now, like he was pretending to be someone else, someone they wouldn't shove aside. The driver glanced at him when the bus pulled up, eyes pausing for a beat too long before the doors hissed open. Jamal stepped on, dropped a few bills into the fare box, and nodded. No one recognized him here. Just another tired face with heavy shoulders and calloused palms. He found a seat in the back, by the window, slid into the plastic cushion, and stared outside. He could still see the conference center behind him glittering with chrome, glass, and synthetic perfection. Every square inch of it designed to scream progress. And yet it had no room for someone like him. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass, closed his eyes, tried to swallow down the quiet, bitter burn in his throat. He wasn't surprised, but he was tired. Across town, Deshaun was pacing behind the main stage. The panel had collapsed into chaos. After he spoke up, attendees started demanding answers. A few people walked out. Others took to social media, flooding Carter Technologies' page with apologies, outrage, and shame. Jamal's empty chair sat like a monument on stage. Deshaun had never seen something unravel so fast. He didn't have Jamal's phone number. Nobody did. Jamal was notoriously private. But he remembered something Jamal once told him in a mentorship meeting. If you ever need me, don't call. Just show up where it matters. So that's what Deshaun planned to do. He grabbed his laptop, skipped the closing sessions, and left the conference building head high, fury rising. Back on the bus, Jamal scrolled through the conference schedule again. There was one session that caught his eye. The future of inclusive tech leadership. He laughed, low and bitter. He remembered when he first pitched the summit all those years ago, not as some flashy tech event, but as a working man's workshop. A place where people in overalls and engineers with thick accents and women who never got a seat at the table could all teach, learn, and share. It was never supposed to become a Silicon Valley parade. But money changed things. Investors wanted polish. PR firms wanted optics. And somewhere in all the rebranding and sponsorships and glittery media kits, his presence got filtered out. Literally. He wasn't in the official video anymore. They'd swapped in a clean-cut young executive to deliver his lines. The story said the conference was inspired by a mechanic named Jamal Carter, but nobody ever said he was still around. He had become a symbol, not a man. The bus pulled into a quiet neighborhood on the east side of the city. Jamal stepped off and made his way down the block to a modest garage. The sign above the door had chipped paint, but the words still held power: Carter Technologies R&D Division. Inside, the space was quiet, filled with the hum of prototype rigs and the soft blinking of old servers. A few young engineers were working late, all of them wearing jumpsuits like his, sleeves rolled up. When Jamal walked in, they looked up startled. "Boss," one of them said. "Weren't you at the summit?" He gave a tired nod. "Didn't make it in." The youngest, a girl no older than 20 with braids and welding goggles around her neck, looked furious. "What happened?" "Same thing that always happens," he said, tugging off his badge and tossing it on the workbench. "But we've got work to do." He walked over to the newest prototype on the far table, a self-learning diagnostic tool for electric vehicles. One of the kids had added a feature Jamal didn't recognize. "What's this?" he asked. The engineer grinned shyly. "Voice calibration for different dialects. I noticed some of the voice prompts weren't registering for mechanics with heavier southern accents. So I trained it on some new audio datasets." Jamal stared at him. "That's good work." He picked up the device. It was small, no larger than a paperback. Efficient. Practical. Not the kind of thing that made headlines, but it worked. Let's test it, Jamal said. For the next hour, he and the team ran through diagnostics, tweaked lines of code, and soldered wires. It was peaceful, focused. Nobody here asked why his skin was darker or why his fingernails were black with engine grease. They just saw the work, the value. Meanwhile, across town, Deshaun had returned to his hotel room, fired up his computer, and started coding like a man possessed. He had an idea, a way to fight back. He created a simple site in under an hour, whoisjamal.com. On the front page, he uploaded a video, the one he took at the conference, where security escorted Jamal out. He added another video from last year, where Jamal spoke at a school in Dallas, inspiring a room full of black students to pursue engineering. Then he wrote a bio. Jamal Carter, mechanic, inventor, founder of Carter Technologies, and the mind behind the Next Drive Summit. On July 19, 2025, Jamal was removed from the conference he created because no one knew his face, because no one thought a black man in work boots could be a visionary. This is who he is. This is why we must do better. He hit publish. Then he shared it on every platform he had. Reddit, LinkedIn, X, Hacker News. The post exploded. Overnight, it was shared by engineers, students, activists, celebrities, even Fortune 500 CEOs. Comments poured in. People who'd heard Jamal speak. People who'd been inspired by his work. People who'd been treated the same way. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone who had ever been erased from their own story. By morning, the website had been viewed over 4 million times. The Next Drive board scrambled to respond. They issued a formal apology, a public one. They begged Jamal to return, offered him the keynote, lifetime access, a tribute. Jamal didn't reply. He was in his garage, pouring coffee into mismatched mugs for his crew. They were gathered around a screen, watching the video Deshaun had posted. Look at this, one of the engineers said. You're trending, boss. Jamal just shook his head. I didn't ask for that. No, she said softly. But we needed it. Another engineer, an older man who'd worked with Jamal since the early days, asked, so what now? Jamal looked around at the room full of talent, grit, and people who were never going to be handed a stage. We keep building, he said. But next year, we're doing our own summit. Silence. Then someone asked, like what, in Dallas? No, Jamal said, standing tall. Right here, in this garage, and in every space like it. No suits, no sponsors, no gatekeepers, just us, just the work. Someone raised their coffee cup. To Jamal. He shook his head. To all of us, he corrected. And as the room erupted in clinks and cheers, the headlines outside shifted. The narrative changed. He wasn't just the black mechanic who got kicked out. He was the man who started something bigger. And this time, they weren't invited. The garage became a war room. By noon, Jamal's humble workspace in East San Jose was swarming not with suits or reporters, but with people, coders, designers, high school robotics mentors, mechanics, ex-military engineers, women in hijabs, men with gold teeth, college dropouts, retirees with toolboxes. They came because they'd seen the video. They came because they'd read the headline and felt something crack open inside them, something that had been caged for years. A man got thrown out of a building he built, and no one batted an eye until someone stood up. Now, they were all standing up. Jamal didn't organize it. He didn't invite them. But when people started showing up with laptops and folding chairs, he didn't turn them away, either. He just opened the garage door and made space. Someone brought extension cords. Another wheeled in a portable projector. A woman in a pink jumpsuit printed name tags with Sharpies and masking tape. Jamal's niece brought sandwiches and Gatorade from the corner store. And by 2 p.m., the Carter Technologies lot had turned into a makeshift summit of its own. Someone had spray-painted a sign on a sheet of cardboard. Real tech. Real people. No permission needed. Jamal stood off to the side, watching it all unfold. It was messy, loud, unpolished. Nothing like the chrome-plated conference center downtown. And yet, it felt real. It felt right. Deshaun arrived late in the afternoon, sweaty and wide-eyed. When he saw Jamal, he practically ran over. They're panicking, he said, catching his breath. I just came from their crisis room. Jamal raised an eyebrow. They have a crisis room? Oh yeah. Like, actual PR consultants, legal advisors, the whole thing. I overheard them planning a reintroduction campaign for you. They're talking billboards, a Netflix docuseries, trying to spin this into something inspirational. Jamal barked a laugh. Of course they are. They want to call you a symbol of hope for equity in STEM. Jamal's smile faded. I'm not a symbol. I'm a man. I bleed like one. I've been broke like one. I get ignored like one. Deshaun hesitated. You want me to shut the site down? No, Jamal said. Let it ride. But from now on, we tell the story. He walked to the center of the garage, climbed onto a step stool, and tapped a wrench against a metal cabinet. The clanging silenced the crowd. Jamal looked around, cleared his throat. I didn't plan a speech, he said, voice steady. Didn't even plan to be here today. Honestly, I planned to be on that stage over at Next Drive, talking about the future of accessible engineering or whatever buzzword they stuck on my panel. But they didn't let me in. A few people murmured. He raised his badge. This is my name, my face, my damn summit. And none of it meant anything, not when I looked like a mechanic instead of a millionaire. Not when my boots were dirty. Not when I wasn't wearing a lanyard from MIT or Google. The crowd was dead silent. Jamal took a breath. But I'm glad they kicked me out. Because this is better. He gestured to the garage, to the chaos, the color, the people who looked like they weren't supposed to belong but showed up anyway. I've been building tech for 15 years. But this is the first time it feels like home. Cheers erupted. Someone banged a wrench against a toolbox like a drum. Others clapped, whistled, shouted. Jamal let it rise. Let it live. Because for the first time, the people who were always cut out of the picture had become the center of the frame. That night, local news stations tried to cover the story, but they didn't know what to call it. Grassroots conference pops up in East San Jose garage. Tech founder shuns Silicon Valley for street-level summit. From rejection to revolution, the Jamal Carter uprising. They didn't get it. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't a counter-conference. It was something else entirely. It was reclamation. By day 3, the garage had to expand. Neighboring businesses opened their doors. Someone from a local co-working space offered access to meeting rooms. Jamal's old friend, a welder from Oakland, set up a metal 3D printing demo in the alley. A Latina coder ran a workshop on AI ethics in Spanish. A group of black teenagers from Richmond built a drone using scrap parts and flew it over the original Next Drive venue, trailing a banner that read, "You can't kick out the future." Back at the official Next Drive summit, attendance dropped by nearly 40%. People followed the movement online. Major speakers canceled. Sponsors pulled out. Some tried to jump on the bandwagon, offering statements of support, pledging diversity dollars. Jamal refused their money. Build with us, he said, or stay out of the way. Tech blogs dubbed it the Carter movement. But Jamal hated that too. It's not about me, he told a journalist. It's about the folks who never got a damn seat to begin with. Still, his name stayed at the center, partly because people needed someone to rally around, but mostly because Jamal never asked for it. He wasn't polished. He didn't speak in elevator pitches. He didn't care about being camera ready. He talked about welding as passionately as he talked about AI. And that honesty made people listen. On day 4, a high school teacher from Detroit flew in just to shake his hand. She said her robotics team had always been laughed at, always overlooked. But after seeing the video of Jamal, a man who got thrown out of his own vision, her students had tears in their eyes. They saw themselves in you, she said. And for the first time, they believed they could belong. Jamal's eyes watered. But he didn't cry. He just hugged her. Because that was enough. By the end of the week, something remarkable happened. The garage was trending higher than the conference. Garage Summit was now a global hashtag. Colleges live-streamed panels from a parking lot in East San Jose. Tech influencers left corporate VIP lounges to sit on milk crates and learn from former janitors who built mini supercomputers in their basements. A week later, a package arrived at Carter Technologies. It was a plaque from the original Next Drive board. They had renamed the main conference hall after him, the Jamal Carter Innovation Center. He didn't even open it. He left the box sealed and used it to prop up a shaky table where a 14-year-old girl was debugging her first robot. Later that night, Deshaun found him sitting alone, legs dangling off the edge of the roof. "Hey," he said, climbing up beside him. "Did you hear about the White House invitation?" Jamal smirked. "Yeah, they want me to give a speech on racial resilience in the innovation economy." Deshaun grinned. You gonna go? Jamal shook his head. I already gave my speech. Downstairs. In my shop. With my people. They sat quietly for a while, watching the city blink and buzz in the distance. Then Deshaun asked, do you think it'll last? This whole movement? Jamal didn't answer right away. Then he said, only if we stop waiting for permission. Only if we remember that we don't need them to validate us. If they open the door, fine. If they don't, we break down the damn wall. The wind blew softly. Jamal looked at his hands. Grease under his nails. Scars on his knuckles. The same hands they refused to shake. The same hands that built something they couldn't even see coming. Let's get back to work, he said. And they did. It was 6 months later when the first Garage Summit International took place. Not in Silicon Valley. Not in a 5-star hotel ballroom. But in 8 cities simultaneously. Dallas. Detroit. Nairobi. Sao Paulo. New Orleans. Bangkok. Mumbai. Atlanta. No keynote speeches. No suits. No admission fees. No VC panels. Just real people solving real problems. Mechanics, janitors, coders, teens, ex-cons, moms, each one with dirt under their nails and fire in their eyes. Jamal watched the live streams from a rusted folding chair in Dallas, where it had all begun his uncle's old garage, now repainted with murals by local artists. The floor was still cracked. The doors still creaked. But the space throbbed with life. A teenage girl presented a low-cost solar panel prototype made from old CDs. A man who'd once done 10 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit gave a talk on recycled plastics and 3D filament production. A deaf student signed a code demo while her interpreter cried silently beside her. This was the summit now. This was Next Drive reborn, but on their terms. Someone handed Jamal a tablet midstream. Look at this, they whispered. The tablet showed a live feed from Sao Paulo. A boy in a Carter Technologies t-shirt was speaking Portuguese to a crowd of 300. The caption translated to. Jamal's throat tightened. He turned his face away from the camera. Outside, the air was thick with barbecue smoke and laughter. People danced to music thumping from a beat-up speaker. Kids chased each other with water bottles. Booths made from plywood and painted bedsheets showcased inventions that could save lives: water filtration devices, low-cost prosthetics, upcycled battery storage. He remembered sitting in his mother's kitchen, age 9, fixing a toaster with a butter knife. She'd told him, don't wait for the world to give you blueprints, baby. Draw your own. Now the blueprints were everywhere. On cardboard, napkins, chalkboards, screens. The world noticed. Major tech companies, now desperate to realign with this grassroots movement, offered Jamal everything. Funding, board seats, awards. He turned them all down. Except one. A foundation independent, no strings, no agenda. It would be called the Carter Initiative, and its only mission would be to fund underrepresented inventors who didn't have pedigree, polish, or privilege. The application was simple. What are you building and why? By year's end, the foundation had already backed 138 projects across 5 continents. One of them, a low-energy water purifier built by a 15-year-old in Sudan, was selected by the UN for global humanitarian deployment. Jamal didn't take credit. He didn't need to. He showed up at the kids' workshop quietly, watched the demo, clapped the hardest, and told him, I see you. Now go show the world. It was a full year later when he got the call. Mr. Carter, this is Sarah from the Smithsonian. We'd like to feature your story in our upcoming exhibit, Inventors Who Changed the World. Jamal smiled, sitting on the back steps of the garage with a cup of coffee, boots muddy, wind rustling through a tarp above him. What exactly do you want to feature? He asked. Well, she said carefully, your legacy. Carter Technologies. The conferences. The movement. The incident. He laughed softly. The incident, huh? Yes, the one at the conference. He looked out at the parking lot, where 2 kids were racing solar-powered go-karts they built from scrap. Their laughter echoed into the street. Tell you what, Jamal said. You can feature one thing. Okay, what's that? My first workbench. Still got it. A pause. Seriously? Yeah. There's oil stains on it from '09. A crack from when I dropped a car battery. I etched my mama's initials on the corner. That table saw the whole damn dream get born. She hesitated, then said, we'd be honored. He hung up, sipped his coffee. The sky was orange. Music drifted from a nearby speaker. And in that moment, surrounded by laughter, steel, sweat, and stories. He finally felt at peace. 2 years after he was kicked out of his own summit, Jamal stood on a simple plywood stage in South Dallas. There were no lights, no teleprompters, just a mic duct taped to a broom handle. He looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of people, black, brown, white, old, young, queer, trans, disabled, formerly incarcerated, undocumented, all holding clipboards, laptops, tools, dreams. He cleared his throat. I started Carter Technologies in a garage. Cheers. They told me I'd never make it because I didn't talk right, didn't dress right, because I fixed engines instead of writing code. But I kept building. And when they kicked me out of their doors, we opened our own. More cheers. I'm not a hero. I'm not a symbol. I'm just a mechanic who refused to stay in the back. Silence. Then he said, "We don't need their permission. We never did. All we need is each other." The crowd roared. Some cried. And as Jamal stepped down from that stage, hugged by people who saw him for exactly who he was, he realized something deeper than any headline, any speech, any revolution. They hadn't just built a movement. They had built a home, one where everyone belonged, even the ones who'd never been invited, especially them. The end. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.